What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the What the Fun show. Wow, it's been a while. There's just been a lot of things going on in our lives, and so we're excited to get back into the swing of things. And so, with me today is my cohorts, my co-hosts, my friends, my best friends. Justin, how you doing today, Justin?
I'm doing okay. I'm excited for this movie. One of my favorites.
Yes. We'll be reviewing Knives Out today, Joe. Knives Out today, Joe.
Knife out. Get it?
No, that was stupid.
I had it here though. While I was
He's got a knife.
Yeah, it kind of worked, but that's not really a knife.
That's not a knife.
Okay then. All right, we're gonna blur.
That's a knife.
We're gonna
He's
blur
got all the
this
knives
section
out.
here.
You guys don't
Anyway,
just keep knives around your desk
no.
area?
No, actually, hang on.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, you got to open mail.
I got a screwdriver.
That is not a knife. That is a gold duck. That is also not a knife.
All right. Well, today we are reviewing Knives Out in anticipation for The Glass Onion, the sequel to this movie coming out. So, yeah, a new movie within the Knives Out franchise is what they're calling it. So, we're really excited for that. That is coming to Netflix at the end of December. We are all wanting to review it, so we will be waiting for the Netflix release and then reviewing it afterwards. So, hopefully, you stay spoiler free until then if you're waiting for Netflix release just like us. But first, if you have not already, please hit that subscribe button, the follow button, all the buttons on any platform that you're choosing to listen to us to. If you're on a podcatcher of choice, please leave us a review. Apple Podcasts is the best way to do so. If you're on Spotify, leave us a star review on the mobile app only. And if you are watching us on YouTube, first of all, hey. Secondly, please hit the subscribe button, comment down below what you thought of Knives Out, and hit the like button on the video. That just helps us out. And also, hey, a challenge for you. If you like the content that we're doing, if you like the podcast that we're doing, share it out. Share it with one friend. Word of mouth is going to help out this podcast, and we would really appreciate you sharing the good news of What the Fun. Anyway, Knives Out. Knives Out was directed by Rian Johnson, the Last Jedi famed, director.
Something about
Let's
that.
just
You wanna
skip
bring that
that.
up?
Continue.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. It was also
Looper.
written by him.
Looper is a better.
Looper's
than
decent.
Jedi.
I mean, I
There's
actually
a
like
reason
Last
we
Jedi,
didn't
but
cover the new series of Star Wars. We're going to continue without that.
I like Last Jedi. So anyway, this movie has an incredible cast, guys, starring Daniel Craig, Chris Evans, Ana de Armas, Jamie Lee Curtis, Michael Shannon, Don Johnson, Toni Collette, Lakeith Stanfield, Catherine Langford, Jaden Martell, Christopher Plummer. Holy buckets, what an all-star cast. We will talk about the cast in a little bit. Music by Nathan Johnson. I thought the score in this was really good as well. This did release in September of 2019. Runtime of 130 minutes. 40 million budget, and in the box office it brought back 312.9 million. Joe, patent pending, spoiler free review.
Ooh.
Let's hear it.
Have you ever played Clue? You know when you're playing Clue and you kind of know what's going on, but also you have no idea what's going on? And there's different things that could be going on, but you don't know what those things that are going on are? Welcome to Knives Out. You'll be confused and then you won't.
Okay. Justin, spoiler free review.
I'm going to try not to confuse the audience here. Murder mystery,
that was
new
confusing
age,
at all.
new age murder mystery. Probably one of the best. There's been a few others: Murder on the Orient Express and Death on the Nile. There's some other murder mysteries out nowadays. This is probably the most concrete one that really gets you hooked and keeps you watching on the edge of your seat. Phenomenal star cast, done right. Daniel Craig plays an amazing detective throughout, and definitely one of my favorites. You will enjoy it if you haven't seen it yet. You like a little guessing game throughout a movie. Go see it.
So yeah, this is the first time that I am rewatching this movie. After the first time that I watched it, and for me, when I watched this the first time, I was floored. I loved this movie. So much so that it almost instantaneously went into my top 5, potentially, arguably, of movies of all time. And then upon this rewatch, it has solidified itself in my top 5. I don't know where it is, but I love this movie. This movie is so good. I think the cast is an all-star cast. I think Daniel Craig, this might be his best role. He is a very good James Bond, in my opinion, but also I think this is his best role. Chris Evans is great in this. Jamie Lee Curtis, Ana de Armas as Marta, like she embodies this like innocence. Like there's no way that this girl did it in this whodunit story, and throughout the whole movie, you really do believe that it's her. And so this movie is done right. It's beautiful. The score is amazing. The actors are amazing. Like, I love this movie. One of my favorites of all time, for sure.
I think
so. Probably going to give it a 0 on your rating.
For Daniel Craig alone, I haven't been a big fan of him as James Bond. But I first saw him back in Dreamhouse, which was a scary movie with him in it, and I enjoyed that. And then Cowboys and Aliens came out, if you heard about that. Also good. But he's mostly known for his James Bond, and he is able to embody this Southern detective with voice, accent, and everything to a T. And that's why Mike, I think, says it's his best film for acting. He really does embody that character perfectly, and it takes you away from what you know him as, which it's hard to do that when he's James Bond. You know what James Bond is. Take him away from that and make him something different, and he still does it well. That's why it's probably his best.
His
just
acting,
a Southern Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah, his acting is almost like in a great ensemble of characters here. His acting is almost unmatched. Like it is seriously, like his facial expressions, his mannerisms, his accent. There was a funny story that came out about him reprising this role for the sequel coming up, and he said that accent was so unique that he had trouble even finding it again for the sequel. So like he just got so deep into that character. Then, man, I'm just so excited to potentially have this whole like franchise centered around him. It's perfect. He makes this movie. So does Marta. I think both of them just make a very good pairing for this movie. And honestly, brilliant writing from Rian Johnson. Just brilliant writing. So let's get into it. We are going to put your official spoiler warning right here. Hey, you. What are you doing?
Who, me?
Do you want to be spoiled? No? Well then.
Stop it. Get some help.
So you don't feel like this guy. Instead, let it be a surprise.
Oh, I like surprises.
So go watch the thing before you move on in the podcast, okay?
Alrighty then.
All right, that was your official spoiler warning. So if you have not seen Knives Out, stop and go watch it. All right, we are going to not necessarily go through the plot like we have done on previous episodes of the What the Fun show. We're just going to talk about some of the highs, some of the potential lows, if we have any, and we'll talk about the cast and then sort of a high-level plot digestion. So, Joe, let's start with you. The cast, like who, obviously I've already mentioned that Daniel Craig sort of stands out, potentially above the rest, but who else do you think, for me, yes, but who else do you think really shines within this cast?
I love Chris Evans playing not Captain America. It works for me on every level. Chris Evans playing kind of like the darker figure, the dark horse figure. You don't know a lot about him, right? You just kind of, he's there a little bit. He kind of plays the back role. He plays the bad boy, the disappointing grandson. I think he kills it in that role. I really like him in the role he plays in this. Ana de Armas as Marta. Marta is so believable as this innocent, just beloved by everyone nurse who has been caring for, the patriarch of the family, who is Christopher Plummer's character, who also did amazing. And he wasn't even in the whole film, right? I mean, technically he was, because they do a lot of back and forth, but Christopher Plummer as Harlan Thornby, amazing. Walt, who is also General Zod, who the actor's name I can't remember.
Michael Shannon.
Thank you, Michael Shannon.
General Zod.
Yes.
This is now 2 superhero movie references.
You're welcome.
We should have a counter.
Yes, we got DC and Marvel, by the way. But yeah, also really, really great job. I'm not used to these roles, right? So when they play something different, for me, that's really fun. So Chris Evans, who we're kind of used to him in his roles as the like the hero in a story, or like the love interest in a story. For this one, he's kind of love interesty, right? He's the good looking guy at the very least. Really love his different role. Ana de Armas, I think this is the first time I ever saw her in anything. So for me, she was a nobody when this film came out. When I watched it the first time, I just love her character. So I don't know anything about the actress, but I love the character that she plays.
And she's a brilliant actress. Like just again, the way that she was, you felt her emotion throughout the whole movie. You really did. It was seeping out of her, and she just did a phenomenal job. Justin, I'll bring it over to you. With this caveat, like Chris Evans, he was amazing in this, and he was believable for the majority of the film, right? Like that's how good he portrayed this character.
Yeah, kind of like night and day. You've always seen him under the bright light, and now he's kind of on the opposite side of that knife, no pun intended. And I feel like he definitely did a good job portraying that character, but he's not my favorite character. I know Jolie didn't mention Laurie Strode in this, which she's not my favorite either. Just wanted to throw that out. Ana de Armas as Marta. She is my favorite. Like Joe said, nobody before this, but afterwards, her character development, her character traits, she can't lie without puking. Like there's things that are compounding to make this character even more believable and more lovable and more impactful for the story. And you definitely got to know her. She did a phenomenal job. And I think there's no one really next to Daniel Craig except her in this film. And I feel like they're really the leads of the acting career in this film. I really like Chris Evans.
No, yeah, Man, Chris Evans is a standout here. Well, no, for sure, and I'm with you on that. I personally think that just Daniel Craig's, Benoit Blanc is just he's above the rest for me. Like I just think that the way that he was written, the way that he was a presence in this movie just really stood out to me. And Justin, you sort of nonchalantly and almost flippantly talked ill about Jamie Lee Curtis.
Sorry,
but she's even good in this. Like everybody stands out. I like Michael Shannon as Walter, Trombe, who he sort of tries to play this like sympathetic son role, and like just trying to get Marta to, come over to their side, and trying to be the persuader. He does a really good job. One that is very small in role, but I thought was hilarious, was Noah Segan's Trooper Wagner. He was one of the troopers who, he was the one that like was really fanboying over this. Like he's truly a fan of the books that Harlan Trombe, built his whole empire on. And I thought just like his little like sort of comedic relief in the times that you needed it just really hit the spot. Like I thought that was on point and good. But like I said, the whole ensemble just played their roles really well. I think I think Lakeith Stanfield as Lieutenant Elliot did a really good job. He was in another movie, the Judas the Black Messiah, I believe. He was in that movie, and he was really good in that movie. So I liked him in this as well. Man, the cast is just too good. It's just too good in this movie. Nothing, nothing bad could be said about it to me. I don't know. I just think each and every role was played perfectly.
Pretty well. The supporting ones. So one of my down points would be some of the supporting actors in the house. Some of the other family members, some of the less important ones.
There was a lot of characters.
I would say that they just didn't shine as much. And maybe it's not a low point, but when you're stuck beside, such great actors and actresses, it's hard to keep that same level going. So there are some scenes where I feel like it drops a little, it dips out. And it's usually those scenes that have the other people in it. It's it kind of fell a little bit there, and not that it was bad at any point, but you could see the level, I could see the level for me drop a little bit in those scenes.
Personally, I don't know if it drops for me. I just think that all of the supporting characters were there, and they played their role the way that it was supposed to, and therefore it works within the overall plot. So since Joe kind of started us on that way there, Justin, do you have any gripes about this movie?
Honestly, not really. I can see where Joe's coming from with the low points, but that's normal for lead actors and backup actors or background actors. That's normal for films, so that way the light's not shined. This word again is not shone on, away from the leads, and that's to keep the dramatic outcome to the climax of the film, and that's fine. Honestly, there were a lot of characters. That's true, but that is to really make you guess, because there's so many different people it could have been, which is a strong point for me. So no, I don't really have a lot of gripes.
I'm gonna piggyback on that. The line that Daniel Craig says, he says specifically that there have been no suspects taken off his table. I'm paraphrasing. That's what he says. And Justin, you're so right. That's so true. Every single character in this movie has a line, has a scene, has a moment where you have some doubts. You have some doubts that they are actually innocent. And that is what works with this movie. That's what worked with sort of the original Clue, back in the 80s. That's what works with these whodunit movies, is that you'd never know who it is. And, everybody is a suspect at this point. Joe, you have any gripes other than some of the supporting characters?
No, I don't think so. I mean, the way the film is done, it's something that's hard to mess up, right? Because it is Murder Mystery Dinner, because it is whodunit, because it is whatever, Murder at Midnight, whatever the game is that you want to play, whatever that it's really hard to mess up something like that or have a low point. Apart from some of those moments where I felt the acting wasn't supported by the other, actors and actresses on set. And it was, like I said, it wasn't bad. There was never a bad point in this film. It just happened to be not on the same level as some of the other ones. So with Michael Shannon as Walt, with Daniel Craig as Benoit, with Ana de Armas as Marta, these actors and Chris Evans, they just did such a good job that when some of the other ones were on film, the nieces and nephews, the younger kids, the what I think a house caretaker or whatever, some
Great
of
Nana
these
too.
other. I thought the great grandma was great.
Yeah, Fran. You're talking about Fran, who's played by
Yes.
Eddie Patterson, who's the housekeeper. And then you got that old you got Great Nana Wanetta, played by Kay Callan.
No, she killed it.
Oh yeah,
Talking about
She was
great
awesome.
people doing amazing in their role. Sitting there looking that way the whole time, so funny. And then in the very end, right, she's sitting there looking that way, except for she's unalive.
Was she?
I don't think
she
so.
was.
You sure?
Yeah, she was.
I'm gonna have to
Yeah.
go back.
No,
I'm gonna have to go back and see that.
I literally just watched it this morning. I don't think so.
Okay, you cannot think so, but she's totally
Okay,
unalive.
I mean,
It
maybe.
it says in the script that she's dead.
Oh,
Really?
Well, I guess I just
Yeah.
didn't notice that.
Fran is actually dead.
Well, I mean, the last scene that she is in, she's sitting there, and she laughs at Blanc, saying that she's not renouncing her inheritance, and she laughs. That's the last scene that she's in. Okay. Anyway, let's move on. I'm
I don't know
in
what to tell you.
agreement with Justin. I don't think I have any gripes from this movie. I think this is one of the few for me that like it's like so close to a perfect movie. Like I don't know, like it just I love this movie so much. So let's get over to our favorite parts. Joe, what were some parts that like truly stood out to you in this movie?
We're officially in spoiler territory, right?
Oh yeah. Hmm.
Okay, perfect. Chris Evans as Ransom. The whole beginning of the film, we think that Marta has done all of this bad stuff, right? Accidentally ODs the Harlan, and then they're trying to cover all of it. When it's pointed out, probably like the 3/4 or like 2/3 mark, that maybe it wasn't her, maybe there was another person involved, and you as the viewer get the little bit of backstory on what might have happened. That switch from good guy, fun loving, like just wants to see the family crumble Chris Evans, to like, oh, he's the bad guy. That little turn that we got was one of my favorite parts in the whole film.
Yeah, I mean, like you sort of see the film work towards Marta actually being the villain, right? But then your belief in that is deleted, right? Because of those little tiny moments that Daniel Craig brings in with his character, that Chris Evans does with his character as well, that really starts shining a light on who actually did it. I don't know if from the start I ever believed that Marta actually did it, but they painted a picture that made it seem that it was all on her.
Yeah.
Any
it was
other
an
favorite
accident,
parts?
But
Yeah.
For me,
Yeah.
oh gosh, I love, like we were just talking about, the Fran scenes. I love her sitting there just appearing, like when Marta is climbing down the trellis outside, after sneaking back out, and Christopher Plummer is doing the voiceover as Harlan, and he's like, and don't get seen by anybody. And she drops down, and immediately Fran's just sitting right there, literally in front of a freaking doorway, looking at her. And she's just like, I really enjoyed that, right? It's just comedic relief in a otherwise serious moment, a very tense moment. And the way that they did that, I think they delivered every time, where when you needed that comedic relief, hey, drive down the driveway and turn before the elephant. After the elephant, after the elephant. The way
after.
The way that
Bafter.
they delivered all these things just worked so well for me. And we've said it here before, I'm not a big fan of horror movies, but this type of thriller whodunit, I love this. It was so good.
Justin, favorite parts? Any comments on what Joe said?
Yeah, I agree. Definitely the Chris Evans parts were great to see his character unfold and really turn the corner. We kind of saw it develop the same we did as the Marta character, and I feel like towards the end, I don't want to spoil everything, but he does grab one of the knives off of this awesome set of collection knives and attempts to kill someone, but it is a stage knife that kind of pushes in on itself and doesn't end up killing anyone. Awesome part. The climax
Game of
is
Thrones.
great. Yeah, the climax. It's kind of like a chair. Yeah. the climax was definitely good, but I think my favorite part is one with Daniel Craig, and it's when it was kind of foreshadowing when they were taking a stroll around the house, and one of the dogs found a baseball, or he found a baseball, and then the dog brought a piece of the chalice. Would you say chalice?
The trellis, yeah.
Trellis.
It's what the ivy grows up on the outside of the house.
Yeah.
It found a piece of broken wood, fresh broken wood, and that entices him to walk around and look for where it came from. Finds there's a window that's on the outside of the house, so he goes on the inside of the house to see where that window is. Doesn't locate a window, finds a hidden window, and then finds dirt on the carpet. He literally gets down. The camera gets down to the carpet level, and it's very good cinematography where it shows you there are little crumbles of dirt on that rug, and it's really well done. There's just a chain of events that lead you to go, but what next? But what next? And keep you on that edge of the seat during that investigation. It really, really pulls you in, and I love it so much. That's probably my favorite, when he is bringing in that investigation into the scene itself instead of just the interrogation into the characters.
So, my favorite part is sort of a bookend. I was rewatching this movie, and I sort of figured out what really hits for me, and it's the bookend of I'm forgetting his name already. It's the bookend of Harlan Tromby being the mystery and the thriller author that he is. He is able to meticulously craft a way to save Marta and make sure that Marta is the person, that who's not to blame for this, right? Even though on paper, she's the one who has injected him with all this morphine and he's going to die within 10 minutes, right? And technically, yes. I love this bookend, even though this scene comes probably like 30, maybe like 25, 30 minutes into the film, it truly is the beginning of Harlan's sort of plan and master plan, and his ability to create these plans, with the bookend of Daniel Craig and him describing the plan of Chris Evans' villain. Like, I really saw this sort of like bookend of story. Like, here's this masterpiece of a person trying to clear Marta of all wrongdoings, right? And then his protege, his grandson is also a person who knows how to weave these plans, right? But he's the evil person. And you see this other bookend of Daniel Craig, like, figuring it out and talking about each of the steps that, that Christopher Evans' character, took. Ransom. And so, Ransom, there we go. I'm like scrolling through the characters here just so like that really like stood out to me here. And so I think overall my favorite part, Daniel Craig is my favorite character in this movie, but like my favorite part is Marta and Harley's like is it Harley? Harlan. My gosh. Marta and Harlan's like plan to make sure that she is absolved of all wrongdoing here. And I think that's my favorite part. And just the way that each of it is shot with all these flashbacks and all these like descriptions and voiceovers, like it was done perfectly. Even the comedic relief that you said, Joe, like, was it before or after the elephant, that sort of stuff? I think ultimately that's my favorite part. Justin?
Yeah, I agree. I also like the Marta doubting herself as a good nurse. I like that plot, and I like the way that it ends, and she reassures herself that she was, in fact, one of the best nurses, or the best nurse that she could have been. Definitely is kind of like that warm, fuzzy feeling that you get when you realize this character wasn't bad, or this character was bad. You get that feeling that you kind of had deep down knowing that. It's nice.
Mm-hmm.
I like the same scene, Mike, the one that you were talking about. And speaking of bookends, with that first introduction at the beginning of the film, with what you said, Justin, there's a part where Harlan is talking about how his grandson is so much like him, and so, the best and worst ways. But he specifically says he can't tell the difference between a stage knife and a real knife. And then he drops his dagger into the table. And then it's funny. It's so funny that at the end he grabs the stage knife and then he stabs someone with the stage knife.
Shadow.
Exactly. And that's the whole film is just a series of that. The entire thing from start to finish, we're led on this foreshadowing adventure where everything leads to something else, whether or not it's relevant at the time. And I really love, obviously the credit goes to the writing of the film, right?
For sure.
We that's where all of it goes. The acting was unbelievable, but when was it Ryan Johnson who wrote it?
Yeah, Ryan Johnson also wrote it, and he wrote the sequel too. When
he wrote it, he did that so masterfully, and I'm very excited to see how the second one goes. As I read through this, I realize that there have been a couple nods to the second film already. One of which I brought up earlier. Angela Lansbury's in the first one, which is really fun for me. However, she is just as, Murder, She Wrote detective on TV. But I thought it was great.
I'm excited for Edward Norton.
Yeah, I mean, Edward Norton is great. I've seen some people's impressions of the second movie, and I'm looking forward to it. So truly excited. I know you haven't. That's why I've said nothing. So
I've seen a character list or cast list.
So I didn't spoil it.
So anyway,
nice.
Yeah. So let's talk about the overall plot here for a brief moment. So Marta is the center of this storyline. She is the murderer, so to speak, right? And so on paper, suspect number one, right? On paper, she injected like morphine, too much morphine into her patient.
Of morphine
150, right? Or was it 100?
100. Yeah,
okay,
she's supposed to give him 100 milligrams of Toradol and then 3 milligrams of morphine, but she accidentally does 100 of morphine and 3 of Toradol.
Okay.
Whoops.
Anyway, this guy's gonna die, right? Marta, she is the center of this, and Justin, I wanna send this to you because you brought up brought up some of the character sort of mannerisms that she has. One of which is that she can't lie without puking. And Daniel Craig's character, he decides to use this to his advantage, and that's one of the cool things about the plot. Let's dive into that a little bit.
Yeah. Justin. So Chris Evans and her actually have a sit down at a diner and discuss this character trait that she has, where she can't lie, and he tests it out. Like, the bad character he has to find out if it's actually true, and later on, Daniel Craig does the same thing during an interrogation. Unbeknownst to him that it is true as well. Definitely interesting that he takes this thing that makes her vomit or throw up or feel terrible and uses it to his benefit with interrogations and questions. Really cool. Definitely an interesting little secret weapon that he has under his belt to use to find out the truth. And she has nothing. She can't even control it. So it's like, she can't say no, she's being asked questions forcefully.
Exactly.
She has to answer them.
And as you said, Daniel Craig uses it first, right? He's interrogating her right pretty much at the start of the movie. And then it's funny that the evil person, the person who has done all this crime also knows this tidbit and starts to use it to his advantage as well in Chris Evans' ransom. Just really, really, really cool. It's an interesting plot device that you just would never think would be in a whodunit movie, but it totally works.
Yeah.
It just absolutely works. Joe, you got anything on that?
No, it's funny.
Cool.
It works not only as a thing, but it's more that comedic relief, right? It's funny that she throws, like, vomit isn't funny inherently, but like, it is funny that you can't tell a lie. Yeah. And they made a whole movie about it, right? Liar, Liar exists because it's funny if you can't lie. And instead of her having to tell the truth, she just has to vomit if she doesn't.
And what's funny, Justin, let's go back to you. She uses this in the final scene to her advantage.
Yeah, definitely, like, to be forced to use it through most of the film and then decide, oh, it's my weapon. It's my secret weapon. And turn it on everybody else. Awesome. And that's just that character development that I was talking about earlier. Amazing work by her to play it to a T. To be able to have this, I don't want to call it an eating disorder because it's not. It's like a mental disorder for a fact of having to puke when you tell a lie.
Yeah.
Like, she even earlier on runs to a pot to puke because she lied. Like, she cannot control it. It happened.
I almost bet that I'd be willing to bet that this is an actual thing. Like, somewhere.
I've never heard of it. That's what's crazy about it.
We may have not heard about it, but you've heard about like how much like stress can really eat at you physically, right? And like, for her ultimate stress is lying, especially to cops, right? Especially to detectives. So what is her outlet for that? Puking. And even though that's incredibly gross, she does use that to her advantage at the end. She does do a lie, and then she holds it just to catch ransom confession, right? And what I believe is, you talk about sort of the character development of Marta and why she's such a brilliant character in this. And I think the most like contrast to that final scene where she does hold the puke and stuff to the beginning is her sympathy. It is her empathy towards the Tremblay family. Like, they're not a good family. Let's just be straight up honest. They are potentially some of the worst people that I've seen on film, right? At least some of them.
We learn throughout the film how bad they are.
Yeah, right. And
vultures, for sure.
And then especially vultures, exactly. Especially when you see that scene where Marta gets the inheritance, and it's just like, whoa. Okay, but regardless, despite their vitriol, despite them being not the best family, she's very empathetic towards them. And you see in that final scene that she has no sympathy at all now for Ransom. She has no empathy for him at all, no empathy for this family. And she decides to use her disadvantage the way that everybody else has been using her disadvantage against them as her own weapon. So, man,
she pukes
such
on
a
Ransom,
brilliant,
like literally on
well,
him.
yeah, no, it's so gross.
Yeah,
it's a great ending.
he did not have a
beautiful
shield
ending.
to defend it.
Yeah.
So.
I don't know if that's a beautiful ending. That's kind of gross.
Oh.
Have you been puked in the face?
Super poetic, right? The whole time, everyone's using this against her. From the very beginning, we see within the first 15 minutes of the film, she throws up. That's the first time we see her throw up for telling a lie. And then from then on out, everyone else uses it against her. And so finally, beautiful. It's poetic, right? In the end, she finally is able to use this to her advantage to catch the killer, to catch the confession, to bring it full circle, right? It's all of that same foreshadowing storytelling throughout the whole thing. We have this beautiful ending and her vomiting all over Ransom. And maybe it's, technically not beautiful, but it really is poetically beautiful how they, bookended this story.
Yeah. And one of the things that we haven't even touched on is the reason for the story as a whole, right? The patriarch of the family, Harlan Tremblay, he's cutting everybody off. He's like, I've been taken advantage of for too long. And so he's literally telling everybody that, hey, I'm cutting you off. I'm not giving you any more money. You need to forge your own path. And, ultimately he does sort of wrestle with if that was his own doing, if that was his fault that all of his kids are the way that they are, right? But at the end of the day, he has decided to give the inheritance to Marta, and Ransom knows this. He does find this out, and I love the ending scenes because Harlan is telling Ransom all of this, and he has this like smirk on him. He's like, yeah, none of you are getting a dime. I'm giving it to Marta, who's been the most kind, who's been my best friend for how many ever years that she has taken care of me.
And never lied to him.
And never lied to him, exactly. And that's what starts this whole thing. The plot is so good, guys. It's just so good. Justin, it looks like you got something to say.
In the beginning.
No, I'm ready for my rank. I'm ready to throw it in and give my star ranking. Yeah.
Before we do that though, Joe, did you think first of all, did you ever think it was Marta? And B,
No.
who did you think it was?
I never thought it was Marta. I knew going into it there was gonna be a twist. Obviously I'm not one for spoilers. So the first time I watched it, I literally had no idea, right? I didn't know who was in it. I didn't know what was gonna happen. But I remember the first time watching it and not knowing who it was. So I didn't know. And when they introduced Marta in the beginning, I was like, yeah, no, I don't think so. Like, she's sure she looks good, right? Because she's so innocent. Like, she looks like a great subject to be the murderer. But I never thought it was her, but I didn't know. And as you watch, you get clues. So as I watched, obviously I was like, okay, I kind of know who it is. But from the get-go, I honestly just had no idea. I didn't know who it was going to be. And then as I watched the film and, picked up the clues along the way, there were certain times where I was like, oh, maybe Walt, maybe. Or, oh, maybe Jamie Lee Curtis's character, who can't remember, or her husband. I was like, maybe. And then it was, when they let me know that it was Ransom, I was like, oh, that makes sense now. But it wasn't until probably, like I said, like about 3/4 of the way through or 2/3 of the way through when they have that moment of, oh, he's a bad guy. With the diner scene and, when they start getting closer together, that's kind of when I was like, ooh, there's something there. And it wasn't until then where like he was on my radar.
Justin, same two questions.
Yeah, so my mind when I watch a murder mystery movie or play a game, it goes wild. You're trying to pick and choose who makes the most logical sense of being the killer and who doesn't, because sometimes it's just a twist and you aren't expecting it, like Scream. So my mind first went obviously to Marta. Then it moved on to Great Nana, because I was like, let's go to the other extreme, right? What if it's Great Nana? It's a possibility. It could have been. Yes. She could have been faking this whole time.
I'm just imagining that.
It could have been real. She could have been just faking,
She gets him out of her chair.
Yep. Terrifying. That would be terrifying. But that would be a twist that we weren't expecting. My mind also went to Daniel Craig's character. Blanc. Sure, he's the detective, but the twist could have been him.
Catching yourself as the murderer. Ooh, that is a good twist.
That'd be crazy. It would have been crazy. Like throwing the scent off by investigating it yourself. It could have been a thing. Mm-hmm. I didn't know. I still no. I still have no.
You still don't know?
Obviously, I know now. But during the film, during the watching, there's so much going on. There's so many characters that it's like picking a needle in a haystack. Even if you look at all the traits and all the different things that happen, everyone is flawed in one way or another. There's always something that you're questioning for every character. Mike said that earlier. It's true. And it's hard to detect. It's hard to detect, no pun intended, who the killer is.
Yeah. So, I didn't think it was Marta. She just seemed way too innocent, right? But at the end of the day, like, you always have your doubts, right? Because that's how they painted this movie. So then, obviously, as Joe said, I sort of swung over to Walt. I thought that he had the most to lose in this scenario, because obviously, and maybe Ransom had a good deal to lose as well. But like Walt had a whole publishing company. He had an established business that he was losing, and they had already painted the picture that he was going to be fired, right? And so I was leaning towards Walt. But then I think ultimately, obviously we land on Ransom and Chris Evans' character, but Ultimately, I actually thought it was Jamie Lee Curtis. I personally, I thought that them sort of steering away in the beginning from her as like a true suspect, like there's not a lot of evidence painted on her in the beginning of this film, right? And then when she hears that the inheritance is going to Marta, she is the most violent. And in response to that. And so I personally thought for a little while, until obviously the reveal that Jamie Lee Curtis, Linda Drysdale was the villain here. Because I think that they steered away from her so much. And then that turnaround when she was told that Marta would be getting the inheritance. Also, by the way, side note, before we give our rankings, that scene when they say get out of our house, and then they turn around to the person reading the will. Wait, is this actually our house? Like, that was perfect. It was brilliant. It was so good. Anyway, Justin wants to get to it. So Justin, 5 out of 5. Give us your review. Remember, listeners, our rankings: 5 is amazing, 4 is great, 3 is good, 2 is okay, and 1 is bad. Let us know, Justin.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to give this ranking, honestly, but it is a must-watch, no matter what I give it. Lucky today, it is a 5 out of 5. You need to go see this. If you haven't, if you like murder mysteries, if you like questioning everything throughout a film, if you're a Scream fan, 90s kids, if you are a fan of a little bit of murder, a little bit of gore, but a lot of drama and suspense, go see it. This is great. And then hopefully the second one holds up and continues, because Netflix has a deal for like 2 sequels, I think. So let's get it. Mm-hmm. Let's keep going. Daniel Craig, I hope he plays that role again and does it well, and it really stands up against this first one, because this is another perfect, almost masterpiece. I would dare say masterpiece. 5 out of 5 must watch from the Duck.
I'll just piggyback off that, Justin. I think this is a masterpiece. It is a 5 out of 5. Like I said, we bear a collective group of 3 minds here. Joe, being the most skeptical person of anything that we know, could hardly find any gripes, if at all, about this movie. Like, true. The cast is awesome. The story, the writing was brilliant from Rian Johnson. Like, this movie is a masterpiece, has outstanding performance from Daniel Craig and Ana de Armas as Marta. Like, this movie is officially cracked my top 5. I don't know where it is, but it is a masterpiece. Joe, what's your ranking?
Prepare for the 4.
I think for you, it places 5 out of 5, right? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, yeah. Maybe 6. Maybe 6 out of 5. Maybe I break the scale.
No, I'll probably give it a 5.
Yeah.
I don't think there's enough bad stuff in this film to drag it down. It's an amazing film. And that's coming from someone like, right? I mean, this maybe not be my first choice of style of film to go to, but there wasn't a moment where I didn't enjoy watching it the whole time. There wasn't a single moment throughout the whole film where I wasn't enjoying myself watching this film, having a good time, wondering who did it, like enjoying the journey that, the writing had taken me on. So I would give it a 5 out of 5. It's a very, very good film. It's an amazing film. I would also say it's probably a must watch. Even if you don't think you'll like the film, give it a shot. I bet you will.
I think this is historic. I think this is our first 5 out of 5.
15 out of 15
from the panel.
Yeah, with all must watches and 2 masterpieces.
It might be.
I think that is historic. Listeners, you are listening to history right now. Anyway, thank you guys for joining us on this journey. No, it's set in stone. Thank you guys for joining on this journey of our review of Knives Out. You heard it here. It is a masterpiece. Please go watch it and get ready for our review of The Glass Onion coming out in December on Netflix. It is going to be in theaters, I believe. Actually, I think it is already in theaters right now if you do want to go see it. But our review will be waiting for Netflix, because not all of us are able to get to the movie theaters. So Thank you guys so much for watching. You could follow us on Twitter at WhatTheFunPod, also on Facebook as well. You could also subscribe. Follow us on your podcatcher of choice. Please hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel. If you want to watch the podcast, go ahead and get over there. And as always, thank you so much. This is Mike. This is Joe. This is Justin. Well, no, sorry, that's Joe. That's Justin. Joe. This is
I'm Justin.
That one's go. Justin. This is our review of A Knives Out. What fun show. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.